Welcome to Coffee with Kehoe, June 2026. So today's episode is a continuation of our One Washington project, our big enterprise platform system, ERP, that we're currently in phase 1A. We had Emily Beck on a previous episode, who was the sponsor of One Washington and still the sponsor of One Washington. So that's always a good sign. And today we have a special guest. We have the new project director for One Washington, Melissa Lasiw. Welcome, Melissa, to Coffee with Kehoe.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you agreed to come.
Well, if you ask, I come.
Yes, but it's wonderful, wonderful. So just as a refresher, the One Washington project, which you are now directing, impressive, is pretty far along, and we're in phase 1A, which is the financial portion of the ERP, and we're driving hard towards a launch date, right? So Melissa's here. I'm going to have her introduce herself and a little bit about your experience and background, and then we'll ask you some questions you may say, we're not going to answer that, but
okay,
we'll try it. We'll try it.
I reserve the right.
Yes. You can always say, I'll pass on that one. But it is great to have you at One Washington. Welcome and thanks for joining us. It's been great since you've been here, and you're doing a fabulous job. But you did come from the private sector, which is always interesting, and we want to find out kind of at some point how the transition's going, what's different about government.
Yeah.
And but before that, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, absolutely. So Melissa Lasiw, and so my background has been in the private sector, as you said. I started out at IBM, and I worked there for several years in New York. And then I was a 24-year veteran at Nike. So I worked there, and that's where I most recently come from. A lot of experience working on ERP implementations, upgrading ERP implementations and implementing for the first time as well. And really excited to bring that knowledge and skill set and be able to use it again for the work that we're doing here on One WA.
That's a lot of years at Nike.
It's a lot of years at Nike, yeah. Yeah, it was fun. It was a good time.
Do you have a lot of Nike gear? I always ask people that worked at Nike, do you have the swag? Do you have like the shoes, like closets full of shoes?
I have more shoes probably than I'm willing to admit to a lot of people. So yes, I do have quite a collection of shoes. And one of my favorite pairs is an Air Max Swarovski Gold pair that I have that I only break out on special occasions.
Yeah. Well, you're going to have to wear that.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah.
I'll bring it sometime.
Yeah, we can wear Nike shoes at work. So that is a lot of years at Nike. So when you were looking at making the transition to this position, what were you looking for in One Washington and the state, since you hadn't been in public safety or public the public before, public sector?
Yeah, I think in general, just for whatever my next step was, I was looking for something that was challenging. So check. And I was also looking for somewhere where there was just a really great culture, people who really cared about what they were doing and really passionate about the work. So also check for that. So I would say the two big bucket items for me were definitely really, those boxes were checked pretty hard coming into this role. Yeah,
and you had quite the interview process.
Yes, a lot of interviews, got to talk with a lot of people, but that's great because you get to hear not only everybody's version of what's going on and their thoughts and what they're looking for, but also a feel for what the team is going to be like. And after the third or fourth time talking with folks, you get to know a little bit more about the working environment and working style. And for me, that was especially important.
So what have you noticed for those that are, millions of our viewers out there that are thinking about, making the switch from private to public? What have you noticed that's maybe surprising or different as you've
Yeah.
made the transition?
Yeah, I think the biggest, I would say, maybe tactical part of it has been the budgeting process and understanding that the budget is law, how it can be allocated, ways that you can use the budget. So I would say from a
You
learning
already know more
perspective.
than me, so congratulations.
So that I think tactically that's probably the biggest, and then of course, right, working within a government environment, right, and understanding the roles that all the different agencies and legislature and governor and how those all play into the work that's happening, and the interconnectedness of how that all works as well. So that's still a learning curve and a learning journey that I'm on. But obviously something that's very different, right? So when the president of the company is now the governor, right? So that's who's passing the messages along. So just that different aspect of just working style.
Yeah. What about the pace of government versus private? Because there's a lot of perception out there that government moves slow, and that it's hard to get things done. What's the perception?
Yeah, that's a fair question. And I think it's also a little unfair asking as part of the One WA program, because in an ERP implementation, we have our own buzz.
There is no take the foot off the gas pedal, right?
No, there is not. And that's pretty much all that I've seen. But I would say there's the work pace is a work pace that I am used to, right, and comfortable with also. But I haven't seen, kind of the stereotypes that you're talking about. That's not something that I've seen since joining the team, both working within the One WA program and then also as we continue to work outside too with our agency partners as well.
Yeah, people are working hard.
People are working very hard.
Yep, for the right reason.
Yes.
For the right reason. All right. So as part of Coffee with Kehoe, one of our last live streams was at the Leadership Forum in Tacoma. And we had a panel of successful women in the public sector, kind of a women in technology session, and which was very, very successful and insightful. But you, as a successful woman in technology, how has that gone for you? And what advice could you give, other women that are watching, right? You've obviously done really well, but I'm sure it's been a challenge in technology, right? And so describe that, how you've risen up the ranks and to where you are now, and maybe some of the lessons learned that you can impart on our audience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say the journey definitely is different, today than it was, 10 or 20 years ago. For women in the technology field. And I can take it back even into college classes where there'd be a class of 100 people and I was the girl. So everybody else could sometimes miss that 8 a.m. class. I could not. It was very obvious if I was not the one that was there.
There's no way to hide.
Nope, there's no way to hide that one. But I would say, sure, there's been challenges, over the years, especially, earlier in my career, and a feeling, whether it was real or perceived, that I needed to be smarter than the smartest person in the room just to have an equal seat at the table. And again, I think we're evolving, right, in that space. And like I said, it's different than it was, a decade or two ago. But I would say pretty much without exception, where I would attribute a lot of my success, obviously hard work, right? Continuing to learn all the things that, you would ask of anyone, is really having good mentors. People that you can talk with, and not just talk with and listen to, but people that you can be vulnerable with, and people who can sometimes call you out on things, right? When you're headed down a path, when you've said several times, maybe that's not the path that you wanted to go on. I've had that happen before because it's easy, right? Saying, hey, you wanted to challenge yourself, and I see you're veering towards that easy side again. Is that really what you want to do?
That's great.
And having that support of people just not only helping you and guiding you, but in sometimes also pulling you along, right? Having that advocate saying, hey, you may not know this person, but she's really amazing, and pushing you in places where you weren't even sure you wanted to be pushed or knew that you could be pushed. And I would say I can think of many folks along my career who I would 100% attribute to the seat that I'm sitting in today.
Great advice.
Yeah.
Mentorship. I've had that in my career as well. Okay, so now that you've been on the project or the program for how long?
4 months.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Seems longer.
It does seem longer. It does.
Now compare this ERP to others. What's different or more challenging in what we're trying to do here at the state of Washington than maybe at Nike, other places?
I would say any ERP implementation, and again, I only have the subset of the ones that I've worked on. There's a lot of things that are similar, and then you'll run into the things that are different. So similarity, it's you have this big program that goes across not only technology, but also affects business or agency partners, in this case, users, and the business processes as well, right? So you usually have a wide breadth. And I say the similarity too is making sure that we keep our arms wide when we look at that. So it's not just in this case a Workday implementation, right? Mm-hmm. There's a lot more that's happening outside of just what lives and happens in a Workday tenant, for example. And we're doing some accounting and business process changes. What I would say is different than from a Workday implementation. We won't get into the technical side of things, but if you're looking at like a Workday versus an SAP, there's definitely a lot of differences, right, in how those two different enterprise systems work. Mm-hmm. So there's those differences. But I would also say it's how you phase the approach, right? That's a different way to go about things, whether you do a big bang, whether you do a phase 1A in the case that we're doing, and how you approach it from that perspective. And I would say really the big thing outside of just the Workday side of it is there are accounting business process changes that are happening. This isn't just a technology modernization, but it's also an accounting practices modernization. So we're really getting a twofer in the work that we're doing. So
which introduces a lot of change to the culture and the environment.
A lot of change, right? So it's not just potential, it's how you hit a button, but it's also why you hit that button. Mm-hmm. It's both sides of it. So, and that creates a different level of complexity, not in a bad way, right? But just things that you need to keep your eye on and make sure that you're not leaning too heavily one side versus the other in what you're watching, and also not what you are betting success on as well. So,
how do you, have you ever seen the amount of agencies and systems that we have to integrate into this ERP?
Yes, and I believe the technical term is a lot. So I have seen the number.
Many.
Yes, there's many. All of our agency partners, all the systems that exist out there, and then if you start going into level 1, level 2, level 3, like how deep you go into it. So it's quite the environment. From a breadth perspective of things that we're touching. So it is, the arms are pretty wide, just taking a look at where, from an agency and system perspective, one touches.
Yeah. It's amazing how, I watched this program change over the years. And since you came in and Emily and some others, just the focus now is so much on our agency partners and making sure they're successful and confident in making the transition, which is difficult because the mainframe we're getting off of is 40 years old. And there's been systems and business processes built around a 40-year system. Not a lot was documented. Mm-hmm. And now we're saying, hey, go change your business processes.
Yes.
And go change your system and integrate through our integration layers. It's a big challenge for agencies.
Absolutely. There's a heavy lift on the agency side in terms of just changes and change management, transition management, right? That side of it that they're doing, to your point, the business process changes, right? So how you just do the business and then systematically how then that information passes through, right? Through statewide accounting and then, comes back on the agency side as well. So it's a lot for our agency partners. And one of the things that we talk about a lot on the program is making sure that when we're working with our agency partners, when we're communicating outwards, is that we're communicating in a way so that we're communicating so that our agency partners can understand. So it's not just pushing out information to say, here's information, but it's ensuring then closing that loop and saying, do we have an understanding of that? Or is there a way that we can communicate that potentially in a different way so that we can get to that understanding? Because it's super important, not only for our partners to understand that, but also then to help us identify some of the areas where there's a gap, or there's a problem, or there's something that we didn't think of. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. So
you've been on several successful ERPs and are still here to talk about it.
I am. I'm standing here.
And now you're on another one.
Yep. Successful ERP
so you must
incoming.
Like challenges, yes. Mm-hmm. But what are some of the success factors that are important as a project director that you look for to really have confidence that we can be successful?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is around how we measure success, right? So what are we looking at, to your point, when we say we have a successful implementation? A lot of it is around understanding. So that everybody who's working, whether it's in, their designated work stream or whether it's an agency partner who's working, across maybe several different work streams, is having that understanding what's happening so that we can see any of those places where, oh, this is going to collide here, or, oh, this dependency, we didn't realize this was here, or, oh, this is coming through, but that's not how it should look, right? So a lot of it is in the understanding. I would say, so communication is certainly, for me especially, on the top of my list, and organizational change management, just doing that piece of it. And then it's also, as we do our work, it's focusing not just on the task or the activity, but making sure that we're looking at the outcome. So I can do a task list of 10 things, but did I get the outcome at the end of the day? Mm-hmm. I'm planting something in the garden. I planted the seed. I watered it. I put it in the sun, and everything is good. But at the end of the day, my plant didn't grow. So I did those activities, but the outcome that I was expecting, I didn't get, right? Yeah. So making sure that we are really outcome focused in what we're trying to accomplish.
Great. Well, I have one major problem that you contributed to.
Okay, bring it on.
Yeah, I didn't want to mention it, but I graduated from Gonzaga, and I'm an avid Gonzaga basketball fan, and I just happened to mention that to you. Mm-hmm. And first of all, you didn't pronounce it correctly.
Purposely, correct.
Yes. I don't know. What did you say?
So if you tell Bill it's Gonzaga, it drives him crazy. I'll share that tidbit with everyone.
Gonzaga, yeah.
Gonzaga.
Yeah. So
and I do know that it's Gonzaga.
That happened. So that did not set us off on the right foot. And then you have a son that's very athletic.
Mm-hmm.
And you went to a Gonzaga game at the University of Portland, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And they were on a great winning streak.
Uh-huh.
Like 15-game winning streak. They hadn't lost to University of Portland in like 20 years.
Mm-hmm. You
go to a game and they lose that game.
Correct. And then,
yeah, even worse, their NCAA game is in Portland. Mm-hmm. Guess who goes to that game? And they lose that game.
Yes.
So that is really upsetting.
Yes.
You're not allowed to go to any more Gonzaga games.
And I think that Bill might be somewhat serious about this too, because I think it's kind of like when you wear your lucky shirt to games. I think that I'm the unlucky person in the seat for any of their games. Yes. So, by the way, the only 2 Gonzaga games I've literally ever gone to, just so you all know, I don't have a history, so I'm literally 0-2 or 2-0, I guess, depending how you're counting it. So.
All right. Well, it's great that you are with us in the state of Washington and as project director, and we are very fortunate to have you. And thank you for being a great guest on Coffee with Kehoe.
Thank you so much, Bill. I so appreciate being here and being part of the team.
All right. Thank you. That's it for Coffee with Kehoe, June 2026.